Calamari, salutations everyone! Squid here with a special guest. He's none other than Sventhoon. How are you, Sven?
I'm fine, thank you. And how are you, Squid?
I'm also fine, thank you. I'm really good to have you here, the commissioner of the most competitive draft league out there.
Yeah, it was a hustle to set up. Several months of DMing people that didn't want to answer back, and finally I got a roster,
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of the coaches there battling. We're gonna do a two-part video, more so than the last ones. This will be clearly divided by the time we have Sven on the video and the time where we're gonna have another guest that will come in later, but I have already spoiled it for you in the title of the video. But he'll be here later, so me and Sven are gonna do the match recaps for this week. So without further ado, we'll start off with the first match. And the first match is actually the Miami Heatmare versus the Cold Summer Assassins. And I'll actually have to let Sven talk about this one because I didn't notice that Souza had uploaded the battle.
Yeah, so this game, if you look on paper, I felt like it was weird that the Heatmores didn't bring the Chandelier to hit the Jirachi. I guess they have two dark types and also the Garchomp, but like they had a hard time dealing with it, and also special defense is not the greatest part of the Cold Summer Assassin side. But it was a fun game. They led with Unfescent and Swirlix respectively, and then Miami Heatmores decided to just go into Raichu and click Nasty Plot directly, like from the get-go. And sure enough, the Raichu killed the Swirlix, but then a Scarf Urshifu just comes in and takes away the big setup set.
I'm generally not a fan of setting up like turn 1. At least with a win condition. You can potentially do it to try and break the enemy down for something else to clean, but setting up so soon, usually not a fan.
Yeah, and then they just traded knockouts throughout, and Souza came out on top because Miami Heatmore didn't have any switches to Guts Machamp.
Yeah, so anything more you want to add about the battle? Because I really didn't watch this.
Yeah, the Garchomp it was Scarf, but it didn't seem to have Earthquake, because in the end game it was Garchomp and Primarina versus Urshifu and Machamp. Both the Garchomp and the Urshifu were Scarf, but the Garchomp was faster, and the Garchomp locks into Dragon Claw instead of Earthquake. So it misses out the 2-hit KO on the Urshifu, which it would have otherwise gotten with Earthquake. And then I think
I think if Aldra had the Earthquake in that scenario, he probably clicks it, because there's nothing resisting the Earthquake at that point.
Yeah, but also like without Earthquake, the Garchomp can't touch the Jirachi either. So I thought it was weird not seeing it, because it only clicked Dragon Claw the entire game.
I mean, the Swirlix is down, but the Earthquake is the better stab. So I don't know. I'd like to one day see the decision making of Aldred to see why he went for that 10.
Yeah, and he hasn't uploaded his side, so I don't know if he had or not.
Unfortunately, we can't know that.
But Souza picks up his first win, right?
Yes, it's the first win of Souza, so congratulations to him. Happy to have you on the winning board. So we're gonna move on now into the next battle. And the next battle is the Rustboro City Rejects versus the Trash Town Thieves. And I remember that Art said that the Gigalith was in front of the Executor, and he clearly said, and I quote, "Ooh, I like this lead." And what does he do? He switches out. So did he like the lead or did he not like the lead?
I think I don't think he liked the lead, but I think he thought he had a free switch into the supposedly specially defensive Galvagrigas, which was physically defensive after sacking it, which was kind of funny.
Yeah, that was really an odd choice, because Galvagrigas is known for his physical defense, not special defense. Yeah. So I don't know his rationale there. But
also,
yes, go ahead.
You have 2 4 times resist to grass.
Yes, exactly. I wanted to touch on that because if the grass move was expected, the Crobat was the better switch in there. But
Yeah, of course.
But at the same time, I don't know if Bishmi wanted to click the grass move there when basically the enemy has no resist for the dragon move. So since it's a spec set, we basically have to assume that Bishmi had not only the Leaf Storm but the Draco Meteor. And if you see his side of the battle, he did have the Draco Meteor. And to me, it made more sense clicking Draco at that turn instead of the Leaf Storm, because there are 2 resists on the enemy side of the field to the Leaf Storm, and none to the Draco Meteor. So I don't know what's your thought on that.
Well, it's 3 resists, but like, I probably would have clicked Leaf Storm as well, because I want to get rid of that Gigalith, you know?
Sure, that's also understandable. But to me, I don't know if the Gigalith would stay in. That's
well,
my
it's
point.
still so early game. Like, you don't want to risk your Draco Soul, and probably not your Rillaboom either.
Yeah. And to be fair,
So
the
I think
Gigalith does sort of leave a Specs Leaf Storm.
Yeah, it leaves the Draco.
Yeah. It leaves the Draco, but not the Specs Leaf Storm. So we're gonna go into the next clip. And this is the clip where Bishmi decided that he didn't need the Rhyperior. So did Bishmi need the Rhyperior or not?
I think this is up to the coach himself. I don't know if he was afraid of the Rillaboom setting up, but like, I feel like you could, since it had the grassy seed, but I feel like it's still a super good answer to Dracozolt.
Yes, because Dracozolt can be quite similar to Dracovish in the sense that it has the super buffed up attacking move that basically kills anything that it touches. But at the same time, I can see a reason why Bishmi he could sack the Rhyperior, being he had Volt Absorb Lantern. But the thing is, if we look at the team builder from Bishmi, he didn't have Volt Absorb, he had Water Absorb.
Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense, but he still has the 4 times resist and secure.
That's also true, yeah. It's a 4 times resist, so not as much as won't do as much damage. Yeah, I can see that. You've convinced me.
But I feel like going into the core was a better play, but I guess he wanted the core for the Urshifu since the Rocky element.
Yeah, that's actually my next clip. It's the Rillaboom sitting in front of the Executor, and Bishmi switches into the Corviknight, and the Rillaboom knocks off the Rocky Helmet. And the Rocky Helmet was actually very important to deal with the Surging Strikes Urshifu, and Arts had already shown the knockoff previously in the previous interaction with the Rhyperior, so I don't know. I think that's a questionable decision by Bishmi, because he really needs to preserve the Rocky Helmet, in my opinion.
Yeah, but like, he should have done this the first time around, switch in the Corviknight and preserve the Rhyperior, or just, in this case, I feel like the Executor wasn't super useful anymore, so he could have just sacked it.
Yes, exactly. I think it's a sack on the Executor.
Probably survived. Yeah, it probably survived the knockoff.
Really?
Because it was at like half HP. Yeah, he hadn't sword stance yet.
Okay, you think Rillaboom wouldn't kill it then?
Well, the Executor is max HP, right?
Probably, yeah. Yeah, you might be right. The knockoff wouldn't kill, and the Draco just goes out and deals massive damage to the Rillaboom. Yeah, that also makes sense. Hadn't thought of that. That's why I invite specialists into this video. So my last clip is actually the interaction of the Urshifu in the late game. So first here, the Bishmi draws out the Darmanitan, and Arts decides to stay in to check if it's Scarf. What do you think about thinking if it's Scarf?
Well, I feel like it was fine, because then you get the freeze like set up with the Urshifu afterwards, because he was basically sacking the Crobat already before.
Okay.
So like you don't need to save something you're already in your mind has sacked.
Yeah, but to me, it makes sense to think, okay, I'm sacking Crobat because I want to Urshifu to come in freely. But the thing is, he justified it in another way that I think that doesn't make as much sense.
Also, if you swap and it's sub belly drop, you just lose.
No. I agree with the play of staying in and trying to KO the Darmanitan. It's the justification that he used that I'm not a
Yeah,
fan
it
of.
might have just been like wrong wording. Like he had all this in the back of his mind.
All right.
It's hard to commentate while playing.
Yeah, thoughts do get muddy in the heat of the battle. But the rest of the clip, as I'll roll it one more time, is basically the Urshifu setting up a bulk up, and here we can't soften it up. Bishmi made a bad decision of not bringing the Rapidash earlier. I still agree that he could have brought the Corviknight first, but now that he U-turns here, he should have brought the Rapidash for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. Because you have the faster Darm, so you can always revenge it after you've done the damage with Rapidash.
Also, a very important thing is that Rapidash quad resists the Drain Punch, so Urshifu can't heal off it.
Yeah, and then you would also still have
a lot of Mons still alive to check the rest of Arts' team. Yeah, that's also...
Just the question is if the Rillaboom could crit through the Dark.
With the Grassy Surge, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's still more... it's greater odds than having Urshifu clean up house.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would have been in Bishmi's favor had he not gone on a sacking spree.
Poor Bishmi. We all have those moments.
Yeah, I did the same mistake versus the Darm in week 1.
Yeah. Yeah, true, you lost against Bishmi. That's right, I didn't remember that. So this marks Bishmi's first loss, actually. And so he's not undefeated anymore.
I also want to touch on the Rillaboom set. I really didn't get why it was Grassy Seed, Swords Dance, and U-turn on the same Rillaboom.
U-turn and Grassy Seeds usually don't make much sense because you're basically throwing away the defense boost.
Yeah, throwing away your item. Well, the Grassy Seed helped him take on the Rhyperiors. I guess I don't think that was the plan.
Yeah, I don't think that was the plan also. Yeah, usually with the defense boost, you see a Swords Dance setting up and then killing everything with Grassy Surges. Yeah, the U-turn, switching out, then basically sacking the electric seed boost. Yeah, it's not the most common set.
This was also the battle where the two coaches brought the 6 I thought they would bring to the game.
See, that's why you're the specialist, Sven. You get the rosters on point.
Well, I haven't gotten the others on point.
Okay, yeah, it's fair. But let's enjoy the moment, shall we?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so now we're gonna go into the next match then. It's the 6th Streets Viper versus the Philadelphia Melmetals. This also marks the first win on the board, this time for Cherry Tree. So congratulations to Cherry Tree.
Cherry Man Cake.
Cherry Man Cake. Oh my god, I totally botched that. I'm sorry, Cherry Man. We're gonna go ahead with the first clip. And the first clip is another person that is glad to lead Clefable and then proceeds to immediately switch out. With the teleport, fair, but I think Cherryman Cake was predicting the Palosand lead, so why didn't he lead with the Ferrothorn in the first place? Because it basically gave free rocks to the enemy.
I think he was kind of scared of the Talonflame possible lead or something like that. Or even like a taunt lead more for him.
Okay. Those are 2 valid reasons. Yeah,
this game I just thought was very weird.
Yeah, talking about the weird part, we're gonna go into the first one. And the first one is basically, this is turn 2. It's immediately after the first clip, and this is the Talonflame setting up turn 3. Again, not a fan of turn 3 setups, and this one went poorly with all the recall that it got from the Dredigon.
Yeah, but basically I think this like exchange is okay because Dredigon is like the biggest. Dredigon and the Jellicent are the big checks to the Barraskewda.
Okay.
And getting it low makes it easier to kill, and you take less like for the Barraskewda endgame.
Okay, and to be fair, he did get it low, but
Yeah.
then this exchange happened.
Yeah,
So-
it's sad that the Ferrothorn survived at 1 HP,
Yes.
and then he missed the next Hurricane,
And
which would have killed.
to be fair, I don't know why Sharky didn't click the Heatwave earlier.
Yeah, I didn't think he had it until he clicked it on
Yeah.
the text.
Yeah, precisely my point, because I think if the Zapdos is sitting in front of the Ferrothorn the first turn, I think you immediately click the Heatwave and then make the enemy try to predict it or something like that to put...
And also, if you're gonna click Hurricanes, set up Rain first, and also don't stay in 20 turns and heal the opponent.
Yes.
Now the Dredigon can check the Barraskewda again.
Yes, exactly, precisely my point. Because the Dredigon got so much HP out of the Zapdos, it was insane.
But he managed to kill it with the Zapdos as well. But I think Sherry could have saved Dredigon at that.
At the same time, what switches into the Zapdos Hurricane?
It didn't seem to be like it wasn't boosting and it was leftovers. So I think it has swapped in something and it was still outside of range.
But that does
It
sound
could
like
miss.
max special attack.
Jolteon pretty free, but
He
he
didn't
had-
switch
he had
the
the item,
Jolteon
I
because
know.
he wanted to preserve the Sash. So I can see that Jolteon I don't think is a switch into the Hurricane at that point. Maybe
But the
Clefable if it's specially defensive.
yeah, he didn't bring removal, right?
No, exactly.
Our
He
rocks
didn't.
were already so preserving Sash is hard unless the opponent defaults, you know.
But to be fair, he did it brilliantly, and we'll see it later down the match. But first, I want to see this interaction, which is the Moonblast lowering the special attack of the Politoed. So to me, I think this actually mattered a lot. Because once we see the skull damage, if it didn't have the special attack lowered, that is easily a 2-hit KO on the Clefable.
I'm not the greatest at unaware, but does it negate any stat change?
Oh, the Clefable was unaware?
Yeah,
Oh, that makes
Yes.
sense. I didn't consider that.
yeah, they're ignored. Yeah, so it didn't matter.
No, it ignores
Not
both. It
Yeah.
ignores all set changes of the opponent. So that kind of
Yeah.
makes sense then. Okay, so my point is basically null and void. So let's move on to the next one. Yeah, this is basically the brilliant thing that Cherryman Cake did, which was first he stayed in on the Zapdos with the Jellicent. You see here that he's first considering switching out, but then he thinks, oh no, he's gonna Roost, I'm just gonna Surf. And it pays off big time, because now he can switch out into the Jolteon, and because the Jolteon is Volt Absorb, he manages to preserve the Sash.
Yeah, I still think that was a risky play because it's basically, since Dredigon is dead, it's basically your only check to the Barraskewda. So if the Zapdos attacks, you're in a bad position. But he got the call right, so props to him. I think I wouldn't have done that play when I'm on the front foot. It's more of a back foot play in my opinion. But props to him for making the call.
But at the same time, what could he do against the Barraskewda if he doesn't pull that play? So preserving the Jellicent?
Yeah, I meant like he had to preserve the HP on the Jellicent. Like if he goes for Surf,
Okay.
the Zapdos basically only beats the Jellicent. So
Um,
if the Zapdos instead of roosting attacks,
Yes, I know what you're saying.
then Sherry has no switches to the Barra.
Okay, I know what you're saying, but at the same time, I kind of felt like he read Sharky perfectly, because I think most of the times Sharky is preserving his Zapdos and roosting when he's at that range of HP. So I don't know if it's a familiarity thing that he knew his opponent well, but to me it was obvious that Sharky was gonna roost in that turn.
Yeah, it's telegraphed, but I'm just saying if you call that wrong, I think you go from a winning position to a losing position real quick.
Yeah, okay. To be fair, it was risky. Yeah, that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
At the same time,
But
yes, it was telegraphed.
it was a good prediction. I just wouldn't have the balls to do it, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, but Cherryman did, and props to him, because that's basically the play that won him the match. I just want to mention briefly two things. First one, I thought I had a clip of that, but I don't, is he switches in the Archeops and rocks are on the field to stay. The Archeops is banded and he uses the Archeops to U-turn out.
Well, he knew he couldn't kill the Palosan, so he wanted to get a favorable position versus the Palosan, and he can also take rocks once more because he has odd number HP, so it's going to be above half next time he comes.
Yeah, but my point is he can only switch up Archeops 2 times in the match. In my opinion, I would make those 2 times count. Probably an Earthquake at that point would just KO something, because I don't think Sharky would have stayed in with the Palosan the way the Archeops was brought in, like menacingly. You see what I mean? So
I think the U-turn is okay.
No, it ended up being fine, I think. But if it was me, I would just click Earthquake, because I just want to get as much value of the 2 attacks that I'm gonna do with my Archeops.
Yeah, but like momentum is a big part of Pokemon as well.
Yeah.
And just click Head Smash the next time you come in, and then you die as well and kill something.
Okay.
That's how you use Archeops.
Okay, to be fair, I haven't used Archeops, so you're probably right. Again, it wasn't the play I would have made, but it did, and it worked out, so I can't blame him too much for it. The second one I'm more confused about is actually he set up an agility on the Jolteon, and the Jolteon was still slower than the Barraskewda in the rain, so why did he do that?
He hoped the speed creep was... Yeah, it was a bad speed creep, basically. That he only speed crept Scarf Jolteon and not Jolteon outside of rain.
Probably he was... He did mention almost at the end of the battle he didn't see Ludicolo, so maybe he was in the mindset that I have to outspeed Ludicolo in the rain, so he just set up the agility, but then later realized that it wasn't needed.
I think him not seeing the Ludicolo meant that he could set up, because he couldn't OHKO the Ludicolo. But since there were no Ludicolo, he could...
From what I could grasp from the battle, I think the agility wasn't needed, because he was already outspeeding the things he was the rest of the team, barring Barraskewda, and he wouldn't outspeed the Barraskewda with the agility either way.
Yeah, well, it depends on if that Barraskewda was adamant, then he would have
outspeed it. Okay, but Sharky did make the right call to make it outspeed the Jolteon then.
Yeah, like in the battle it didn't matter, but like there were in prep situations that it could matter.
Okay, I see what you mean.
And it was a risk-free play when he had the Sash attack.
Anything else about this one?
Yeah, I don't know how Sharky didn't bring either Escavalier or Toxicroak for the Clefable. It's gonna be rough to KO the Clefable, and I didn't like the Morgrim.
Yeah, Morgrim actually didn't do much this battle. I love Escavaliers, so I'm always sad when he doesn't bring it. So we're gonna move on now into a plate full of oysters. It's the Calexico Blazicons against the Immunity Idol, and this one I'm gonna go with a little bit of a head scratch. I see the point and I see it working, and it worked, but what's your thoughts on the Choppleberry Palosan?
Like, kind of worked in the early game, and he got rewarded with a flinch and then also KOing the Lycanroc, as we see here.
To be fair,
I think it caught Mountay off guard, which is what I think was the point of the set.
Yeah, and it worked perfectly for Sen, so props to him. It's weird thinking of Palosan with a Choppleberry, but it did work. The flinch was very fortunate, but that's part of the game also. Basically netted him a free KO, and I think Sen has done a pretty good thing in his games, which is his early game. He always brings something that catches opponents off guard and gains him much momentum during the match, but then somehow he manages to lose it midway, and I think that's what is plaguing him at the moment. But prior to the match, we do see that Mount on his side of the battle comments that he wants to set up the cloister, and he basically has a checklist of things he needs to do for the cloister to sweep. The first one we see here is actually the Sylvally KOing the Paloswine. The second one he mentions is basically KOing or chipping down the Klefki Anath, which the Sylvally also does. And later down the line, he also wants to defog the hazards away, which he does here with the Mandibuzz in front of the Hydreigon. And basically the only thing stopping a cloister sweep was a Choice Scarfed Zeraora, which he manages to knock off. And at that point, Sen didn't have an answer for the cloister. By the way, did Sen have an answer for the cloister at any point?
I think his best ways of checking a cloister setup is either have Thunderwave on Klefki and just hope for Paras, or have, like, the Serena was on the field when the cloister set up.
Yes.
Had he had like Feint or something on the Serena, he can always power whip it down to the Sash and then kill it with Feint as a bait for a cloister. Then also I feel like his two best checks to cloister
were Paloswine and Klefki, and they were down.
No, like that he didn't bring. I think Octillery
out of the battle.
Octillery kind of checks it okay.
I think Sen was doomed once he let the Klefki go down like that. I can see him still counting on the Zeraora, but the cloister was sashed, so one attack wouldn't be enough. Also, as a last thought on this battle, I want to mention the physical Hydreigon. What do you think?
I think it was so that Calamari Spectrier didn't wall it eventually.
Yeah, because the physical Hydreigon makes sense in a battle where Spectrier comes, but personally I think Monte made the right call in not bringing the Spectrier. I wouldn't have brought it either.
No, I don't think Spectrier is that good.
When I saw Spectrier picked first round, I thought, oh no, oh Monte, what are you doing? No, you don't realize how bad that mon is.
At least a new toy thing, at least.
At least, according to my playstyle, I like picks that are versatile and allow me to be creative with my builds, and Spectrier does none of that.
Well, I guess you can do like double kick or something for opposing dark types.
Oh god. So anything you want to add on this battle?
Yeah, it was an unfortunate freeze as well on the Serena in the battle.
Oh yeah, that one hurt. That one really hurt.
And I also think in the end, when he decided to kill the Sylvally with Volt Switch, I think Serena was the wrong one to go into. Right, the cloister with this.
But to be fair, the Serena does deal a great deal of damage to the cloister.
Go ahead. The priority also on Sen's side made it so he couldn't beat the cloister.
I think he was banking on the Choice Scarf Zeraora to match.
I wanted to see Octillery again.
Octillery in Trick Room.
No, I could tank Icicle Spear and then kill it with Energy Ball.
Yeah, it does resist both saps. It's true.
And I think you can make it survive a Walk Blast, which is the worst you can do, right?
So moving on, we will go into another battle this week that was 6-0, which was the Sydney 6 versus the Hellblaze Volcaronas. And the first clip we're gonna show is actually the start of the battle. And in the start of a battle, we actually see a turn 1 setup. And I've already said multiple times in this video that I'm not a fan of turn 1 setups. So what do you think about this one?
I think they pulled the trigger too fast. I'm sure you can DD, but what can you can't OHKO everything on the Sydney 6 roster, and also going for Phantom Force just ensures that the Dragapult is dead.
Yes, because he has no way to preserve it that way. Also, I think you can DD, but you can't DD in front of a Tapu Lele.
No, but you had the Rosali Berry, but I don't think that helps either way. Because as soon as you Phantom Force, you're gone basically.
Yeah, I think it didn't make much sense at that point because the Heatran is a tanky boy. Dragapult's attack stat isn't that crazy. It's high, don't get me wrong, but it's not that super high. So even at +1, I think both the Vaporeon and the Heatran will be able to tank a hit.
Yeah, what is the best way is dive, right? To hit the Heatran, but then you can just swap in the Vaporeon.
Yes, but if we look at Lucas' team, he then doesn't have that much offensive pressure, and that's ultimately why the game ended up dragging a little bit too much. That, and in my opinion, both coaches failed to realize that rocks were very important to chip down things that were coming in, because there was a lot, I say a lot, of switching around, and rocks would have been so valuable at that point.
I also feel like Sidon could have made this battle shorter, because like when he was in front of the Alcremie with the Heatran, instead of switching out.
I think it's this clip. Oh no, it's not the clip that you were mentioning, but it's kind of the same thing.
It comes later here,
where there is a toxic and aromatherapy and heal bell interaction, and actually people can always exchange toxic for aromatherapy, because Cleric, the Cleric moves all have 8 PP maximum, and Toxic has like 16 or 32, I don't remember.
16.
Yeah, 16. So you can always trade back and forth Heal Bell and the Cleric moves, because you'll always end up with things Toxic in the end.
Yeah, I also like watched the team matchup, and I don't really agree with the Earth Power bring over Flash Cannon on the Heatran. Flash Cannon would have ended the game much sooner as well.
Yeah, because it can check the Alcremie really well.
Yeah, the things Earth Power hit was the Entei and the Quagsire that Flash Cannon didn't hit, and those are two mons you're not gonna stay in on with the Heatran either way.
That's very true. I can see the Earth Power being the reason being to hit the Entei in an exchange, but since the Entei has the ground coverage for the Heatran, you wouldn't want to stay in any day of the week. It's a good point made there. Maybe you could potentially catch it on a switch, but at the same time you do have a Vaporeon that deals with the Entei so well, so why bother?
Also, did he miss a single Magma Storm?
No, he didn't miss a single Magma Storm, which was also really insane to think about that. What's Magma Storm's accuracy? 75. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy, I knew it was low, I didn't know it was that low. To be fair, I think if he misses one of those, it might be the momentum that Lucas needed. And I still have the last clip here. It's basically before the Tapu Lele switching in to clean up house. It's the interaction between Magma Storms not missing and Mr. Rime actually trying to outlive the Heatran. So what do you think about this exchange?
I mean, Lucas doesn't have that many switches into the Heatran, so he's just trying to get rid of the Magma Storms, because since the Heatran doesn't have Flash Cannon, the Alcremie can also stall it on.
Yeah, did Toxic made sense at that point? Because Sidon would want to preserve PP on the Magma Storm. Yeah,
well, sure, Toxic is fine, but he can just always switch out. I don't know, like, he seemed baffled that he seemed taken by not remembering that Rapid Spin gave Mr. Rime a speed boost and all that.
That's true.
So I think it was more of a disconnect.
To be fair, I think I haven't got used to that idea also, so I don't fault him for that.
No, I think it's fine. It just happened. It was a long game.
It was a long drawn out game, but after this interaction, once the Mr. Rime went down, basically the Tapu Lele switched in and managed to KO the rest of Lucas' team. Yeah, that's basically the story of the game. A long drawn out match with a cleanup from Tapu Lele at the end, with extra steps in the middle, but yeah, that's what we've been talking about. So anything you want to add about this one?
Yeah, I felt like the Hellblaze Volcaronas didn't bring anything that could really beat the Heatran other than the Entei and the Quag. But they don't have much for the Heatran either. But it would have been nice to see a tech move on something.
I think they were counting on the Entei to beat the Heatran.
But the Entei is always, like, Sidon has the switches in for Entei for days.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Also, bring flash cannon. So the battle is ending
Yes.
fast.
Yes. In this match, it would have made a really big difference. So we're gonna move on now. And now we have a premiere by the Sacramento Sandslash against the Nashville Nidokings, and the Nidokings managed to come out on top of this one. First interaction that we're gonna show is, first of all, before we go to the clips, I watched this from Pat Mac's site, from the Sacramento Sandslash site, because I don't believe the Nashville Nidokings have posted it yet, and they made some good points on the team builder. So his game plan was basically burn everything that touches the field and bring in the Nidoking and the Latios as many times as possible to hit stuff. Okay.
The game was a 1-0 victory to Nashville Nidokings, but since the Sacramento Sandslash used
multiple items,
broke the item clause,
yeah,
it turned into a 3-0.
Okay. Yeah, and that's why you're seeing this score. But in the actual match, how it played out, it was actually a 1-0 victory. So we're gonna go ahead and have Pat Mac's plan in mind when we see the clips. And this first clip is a burned Copperajah sitting in front of the Blastoise, and he switches in the version first with the flip turn. And I guess this is okay because you don't know what the Copperajah will do, but this time I don't think he gets a pass because he uses Parting Shot, and if his game plan is going into Nidoking and Latios, why didn't he do that? He went into the Rune Readers.
He didn't want to go into the Latios there because he was expecting the play rough, right?
Okay.
But that Nidoking is kind of free.
Yes, exactly. And Nidoking has Earth Power to KO the Copperajah, and even if you expect the Xatu coming in, you can predict that and go for Ice Beam.
I just think he was a little bit afraid of how much damage he wanted to take on those, but like Nidoking had Black Sludge, so shouldn't have been a problem to swap in.
And don't forget that after the Parting Shot, Copperajah was burned, and that -1. Copperajah hits hard, but when it... and by the way, it didn't have the Sheer Force to boost its attacks.
Well, it did.
At that point it did? Okay, then my bad.
Because now the switch into that.
Oh yeah, true. The Rune Readers now comes in. You're right. But
it was only one move that was boosted by it either way. So
I think Braves could have went with Heavy Slam there.
I think
with
it was,
Heavy Metal. I mean.
Yeah, I think it was Heat Crash, Grass Move, and Play Rough.
And Rocks. Okay, yeah, he could have gone either way, depending on what he wants to hit harder then. But Copperajah being burned and that -1, it's basically more than -3. Either way, even if the Latios comes in, he isn't taking that much damage, even with the Play Rough.
I think the Nidoking was super free there.
Yeah, personally, I would have switched into the Nidoking and made a prediction on the Xatu. Even if he wanted to go into the Latios to not make a prediction, I think it was also fine because he had the Roost to recover later if he needed.
I mean, he had like a fire move on the Nidoking, right? He could have gone for that as a neutral play on the Xatu switching.
Okay, that's also a very good point. I didn't catch the flamethrower, but yeah, now that you mention it was there.
I think it was there. I might misremember, so
yeah,
don't quote me on
that. Oh, I'm totally gonna quote you on that. And the next play we're gonna analyze is actually the Xatu switch-ins. So at this point, Pat Mac is thinking, well, I'm gonna Rocks, the Xatu is gonna switch in. So the Xatu switches in and he clicks Rocks. Why?
I mean, if the Xatu doesn't switch, like I felt the way that Braves was playing this was he was almost ready to sack this Copper because it was just stayed in all the time, and it was not super useful more than get Rocks up, so he wanted to trade Rocks. He has pretty good switch-ins into the Xatu.
But to me it made more sense to click Poltergeist there, because if he stays in with the Copperajah, he's basically taking tons of damage, and if the Xatu comes in, it's basically that.
Yeah, I can see why you go for Rocks and why you would go for Poltergeist. I think both are valid options. Also, the Xatu could have been no item to prevent Poltergeists and such as well.
I feel like some foreshadowing there.
No, a lot of people have been using that kind of stuff versus ghost types this gen.
Actually, I think against a certain type of opponents, if you know your opponent's skill level is above a line, I think you almost have to expect a no item and try to counter that. But more on that later. I think Braves could have brought the no item. I guess you're right. Yeah, people are.
I still think it was risky with the Satu.
Yeah, I mean, switching in the first time, I think it made sense switching the Zatu the first time, because the rocks are kind of expected there.
And
but
also,
to
me, him switching it out that confidently the first time screamed either Kasib Berry or no item, because he wasn't afraid of the rune at all.
Yeah, but because he was expert belt, I think switching it out the second time wasn't a play at all.
Maybe he didn't think the opponent would bring a ghost move, I don't know.
I mean, it's the Zatu.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I can't explain what happened.
We're gonna move on into the next clip. Then this is the freeze. Oh, poor Pat Mac.
Yeah. To be honest,
yeah,
I don't know why this didn't have play rough.
I think it had, but the Azumarill was banned. From the way Braves played it and the damage it's doing to a fur coat version, I think it was banned.
Yeah, I think it was banned too, but like, had it not been, I guess that's the reason why you click Ice Punch, but like, I don't think you swap in a Nidoking card on a Azumarill. And Braves still had the super easy sack in Copper Raja still in the back of that.
Yeah, he could have sacked the Copper Raja once the freeze happened to be able to switch moves earlier.
No, I mean like if you had gone for play rough, and then you get one kill because they're not gonna swap in hard Nidoking.
True. I wouldn't hard swap the Nidoking.
And then you kill anything with the play rough, and then the Nidoking comes in, and then you can sack the
Copper Raja. Okay. Yeah, that's also a better play that could have been made there. But then we get into the end game. And this is the Latios sitting in front of the EliTheRebel. It clicked Psyshock and it lived on a smidge of health, and that meant that the EliTheRebel was able to put the Latios into Aqua Jet range. So what do you think about that one?
It was unfortunate. I think I would have gone for the KO really, because you can't put yourself in the range of the Aqua Jet.
Yeah.
Because then you have a chance to lose, because the Latios beat everything else on the team.
Exactly. Yeah. Precisely Pat Mac's point. Also, he was debating on going Draco or...
Yeah, like he can go Draco and then sack something.
Exactly, that's what I wanted to say. He can go Draco, sack the Runrigos that he still had, and then because he's not in range of the Aqua Jet, he can basically clean up house.
I also didn't like the Crawdon sack from National Nidokings in the mid game, when he still had the Copper Raja burn in the back.
Yeah, that's also a very good point, because why sack the Crawdon when you basically have a deadweight Copper Raja at that point? And the Crawdon could have put in so much work.
Also, I'd say like the first turn with the Rotom against the Copper Raja, just going for the raw Will-O-Wisp is kind of risky.
I actually don't mind that play, because it's...
you get the burn, but like Heavy Slam's still gonna do a lot, but it didn't have it.
But you're following your game plan, so I think that makes sense. And to be fair, Brave's team is highly physical, so most of the time you're gonna get the burn on something that you really want.
Yeah, I was also like Dragon Dance Crawdon, I think kind of 6-0'd the team that Pat Mac brought.
But Braves didn't bring it. And that's
no,
why...
but if it would have, because then he outspeeds everything, and they don't like taking hits from the Crawdon.
But I mean, does the Persian outspeed? Does the Crawdon outspeed at +1 the Persian?
Yeah, I think you can make it outspeed.
Okay.
Maybe not at level 100, but you can at level 50.
Yeah.
I'm more well versed at level 50 than 100, since most leagues are 50.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think it was a good game. I was so afraid that Southside would almost threw this multiple times in a row. But he managed to win in the end as well.
But to be fair, he did play the end game really well, sacking the Among Us to preserve the huge power on the Azumarill.
Yeah, that was a good play, because had he not done that, then there was a chance that he lost.
Yes, Yes. So we're gonna move on now, and the
Yeah.
next battle we're gonna do is the Brisbane Real Boomers versus the Cerulean City Mewtwo. This one also has a pretty cool turn one, and the turn one is the Mienshao in front of the Whimsicott, and both of these mons are scarfed. So just JH is caught and Werebite the scarf on the Whimsicott and basically sacks the Mienshao turn one. Would
Well,
you've done the same?
it depends on, honestly, on the importance of the scarf mon. Like some games I do it, like if I was up against like an Urshifu, then the information gained from knowing its scarf rather than not knowing it is worth it in my opinion. But like a Whimsicott, it's not worth risking it in my opinion.
That's also my point. If you want to gain information, might as well gain information on something valuable. And Whimsicott is probably not the most threatening mon, especially considering the rest of Jamie's team.
Yeah, and you kind of needed the Mienshao for the Miltank.
Yeah, because the Miltank actually managed to stay in on the field way long, and this match was also a really drawn out match. And a really cool thing that Jamie did was actually bringing the Trevenant, and the set that it was Trick Room, Horn Leech, Drain Punch, and Shadow Claw, and yet it was Scope Lens. What do you think of the Scope Lens?
I don't know, maybe you want the crits. Like, it's hard to find the correct items for your mons with an item class, you know. Sometimes you want another item that's better on another Pokemon. You have to make do with some less than ideal.
Did he have a Life Orb? I don't think so. Probably on the Mienshao, but I think it was scarfed the way he stayed in.
Yeah, he probably didn't have a Life Orb, but yes, a crit. Well, I think the crit was more so for the Milotic, or if it's
flame...
coil.
Oh, he was afraid of Coil Milotic?
No, Coil Sanakana.
Oh, okay. I actually don't mind the Scope Lens, but I'm struggling to see, besides that Coil Sandaconda, something that would set up massive defense boosts. Probably the Mew. Okay.
Even like Cosmic Power Mew.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Given that, I kind of like it.
Get out of jail card.
Yeah, and with the Shadow Claw, it's actually 50% crit chance. The thing is that Miltank was on the field, so he couldn't really use the Shadow Claw, and
he was lucky it was not Sap Zipper, so he couldn't touch it at all.
But he was using Drain Punch against the Miltank.
Oh yeah, Drain Punch. Not Warpage.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it still didn't do a lot of damage.
Yeah, because Miltank was always healing off the damage. The next clip that I have, I think it's another toxic Heal-Bell interaction. Basically, we're gonna say the same thing. When you're up against toxic with your Heal-Bell, if you have the Heal-Bell, you're always gonna lose the exchange battle because Heal-Bell has less PP than toxic.
You have to try and bait out more of the toxic.
Yeah.
Like, you can't release when you stay in here and you do 0 damage. It's not worth it.
It's worth to Heal-Bell when the toxic mon is not present. But otherwise, in the direct exchange, you always gonna lose it.
Unless they miss like 20 toxics.
That can happen. It's a very slim chance, but it can happen, yeah. So we're gonna move on now into another thing that Jamie did that I didn't appreciate. Oh no. This is actually a thing that occurred before that. It's Harry struggling against the Trevenant. He basically switched in a lot of mons into the Trevenant until he finally decided that he needed to bring in the Sandaconda to then put the Dracovish on the field. And I think he should have realized that earlier because he basically lost a lot of HP to that Trevenant.
Yeah, also getting the paralysis is quite nice on the Trevenant, so you can get paralyzed a couple of times.
And potentially gain some turns. Yeah, that's also really important. Yeah, but we actually saw how the Trevenant set was so good against Harry's team, but at the same time, it didn't have the necessary firepower to break through the fat. And finally, the last thing that I wanted to mention was actually Jamie did this 2 times in the battle, where he set up with a mon and then immediately switched out.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean,
I feel like you should be able to hit the the mill tank at least here with
I
anything?
think the mill tank will be hit hard here because it probably is more physically defensive than specially defensive.
Yeah, like, and even if you don't have focus blast, like Psychic's gonna do a chunk.
And here we see that the late part of the battle was actually done on Showdown because they had a few disconnect issues with LAN, and the second time that he set up was basically an iron defense on the Araquanid to then immediately switch out once again.
Well, I feel like the Araquanid didn't have a way to hit the Milotic, so that one made more sense than the Mr. Mine.
Well, but if you're gonna set up an iron defense and then immediately switch out, to me it's a bad read on the battle point at that point, because you can eventually make a double out into something that pressures what wants to come in, or eventually just straight out attacking or something like that.
Yeah, well, since the Milotic wasn't burnt and kinda low, I think he didn't expect it to hard switch it. Then when it did and it got the Flame Orb again, then you're in a bad position because it's just gonna heal back up.
Okay, I see what you mean. But at the same time, since Harry missed the Super Fang, he basically had to sack something to preserve the Dracovish. So at the same time, the Milotic coming in did make some sense.
Yeah, I just think he was far enough behind that he had to make risks and they didn't pay off.
Okay, yeah. To be fair, he was quite behind at that point. Yeah, so anything you want to add on this match?
No, not really.
Not really. So now we're gonna go into the spicy one, shall we?
Yeah, the spicy.
And the spicy battle is actually Sven battling against Salimumble. And in a kind of unexpected result, Sven actually managed to get the win. I did say in my clean sweep video that if someone could beat Sally at this point, it was Sven. So at least I was right on that one. But I did pick Sally for the pick'ems, so shame on me.
Yeah, well, I think we both kind of got 5 out of 6 correct on both sides. I didn't expect the Poliwrath. I thought Tentacool would come, and he thought Pikachu would come instead of the Greedent.
With the Mamoswine so prevalent, I don't see Pikachu really coming in.
Can still extreme speed, you know.
Can still say extreme speed, true, but the Mamoswine puts so much
grass
pressure.
coverage.
And what do you do into the Bronzong? That's basically physically defensive.
Well, I don't know. Pikachu can do a lot.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I wasn't planning on bringing Pikachu. I'm just happy people are respecting it now.
Yeah, to be fair, you did have utilized it pretty well, so props to you on that one, Mr. Ash
Should
Ketchum.
change name to 3 Pikachus instead.
Yeah, true. We'll actually go into the first clip of your match, which is the interaction between the Bronzong and whatever comes in, and what comes in is actually the Dhelmise. About the foreshadowing we did earlier, this is another Poltergeist no item interaction, and as I was mentioning, to me it's obvious that a player of a certain skill level will not bring an item for the Poltergeist. So I think in this way you read Sally really well, because he also had done this earlier in another week. So you just press the Shadow Claw button instead of the Poltergeist.
Yeah, also to be honest, I had knockoff on the on the Dhelmise, and I don't want to bring knockoff and Poltergeist.
That makes sense. I hadn't thought of that point of view. By the way, I didn't watch the battle by your point of view yet. I'm gonna do that after.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, it doesn't really matter
but
too much.
Another thing that I think you did quite well there was rapid spinning first to outspeed the Bronzong to make sure that he doesn't set up the rocks before dying.
Well, to be honest, I expected him to switch.
And at the same time, since you didn't see him switching out, you kind of expected the no item.
I expected him to have Cassib Berry,
Actually, that's what I would have brought also, the Kaziberry.
But I just thought the main purpose of the Dhelmites was to get rid of the hazards, so I was fine. And I thought he would preserve the Bronzong more. So I was happy when I got the Bronzong out of the picture, and then I felt like Dhelmites had done its job, you know?
With the Bronzong out of the picture, there's no Steel type threatening the Slurpuff, and then you just brought in the Slurpuff to set up in front of him. What do you think of the way he played around the Slurpuff?
I think he thought I wouldn't bring out a setup Slurp. And one thing I regret is not clicking the second
Calm Mind?
Yeah. But I thought he was physical Coco, so he was gonna like wild charge, and I needed to.
Wild charge, and then you're basically dead. Yeah.
No, I survive it, but I get so low that I need to heal with a draining kiss. And then he proceeded to sack the Mamo, which was nice for me.
Were you expecting the Icicle Crash at that point, and that's why you clicked the Cotton Guard, or you just thought that with the Cotton Guard I leave whatever hit he throws off?
I thought like the Cotton Guard, I kind of wanted to do it earlier, but I knew I needed to get the Cotton Guard up to not invite any of the like. To me, I thought the Coco was still physical because it had only clicked U-turn, and it did damage, more damage than it would have done if it was timid.
Okay.
So it didn't have a minus attack nature.
Okay.
And since everything else was physical, I felt like if I get the Unburden off and I have a Cotton Guard up, I might survive attacks and then can out-heal them with
Okay, so you did it more to activate the Unburden than anything?
Yeah, well, the Unburden was already active at that point. It was more so I could take on the following thing that came in.
So you're basically trying to set up a win with the Slurpuff there.
Yeah, or at least break enough so, like, I thought I was pretty clear that I would die through the Coco when it came in. I just didn't want the Sceptile to come in you at that point.
Okay.
Well, not really. I felt like I had answers to the Sceptile.
You did have an answer to the Sceptile. It's actually my last clip, I think. Oh no, actually my last clip is not about that thing. It's this interaction where he's sitting with the Tapu Koko in front of the Landorus, and he clicks T-Bolt, and then you bring in the Greedent, and then you immediately switch out into the Landorus Incarnate once again. So I think you're basically stalling out electric terrain turns at that point.
Yeah, this was right after the Slurpuff died, and since the Slurpuff got outsped by the Coco, I knew it was scarfed. So I expected the Coco to switch on the Landorus.
Okay.
Because I knew it was locked into Thunderbolt, so like a U-turn was super free, and didn't really matter what I went into because I was just gonna, if he stayed in, I was just gonna double back into the Lando. I guess he could have taken advantage of it, but yeah. And then the second time, it's the last turn of terrain, so I don't need to U-turn again, because if I kill it, then Sceptile won't have the terrain.
Okay, I just didn't realize that you knew the Coco was scarfed from the Slurpuff being outsped.
Well, the Slurpuff has a burden.
Yeah. Were you speed invested into it, or you don't want to reveal that?
Well, yeah, I was speed invested.
Okay.
Of course, I'm invested enough to outspeed like a non-scarf fastest one of the opponent.
Yeah, that makes sense, because it's probably isn't that much speed investment to get that speed that you need. And eventually, at the late game, we were talking about the way that you dealt with the Sceptile, which was the air balloon with the Slowbro.
Yeah, that was actually the first set I built for this week.
Basically, you know your matchup, and I'm like, okay, I'm bringing air balloon Slowbro no matter what.
Yeah, I wanted to bring quick draw so bad once. I was like, I can do it this week. Okay. And I was like, I can't really do quick claw because then I might lose still. In case of the quick claw not activating.
Yeah, okay. To be fair, that's not a good idea because of how independent probabilities work. So it's like 1/3 of the time that you get to attack first or something like that. It doesn't add up. Yeah, I think the air balloon Slowbro worked as it should. You preserved it. and that's the important part, where people will sometimes do something to counter a specific mon of the opponent and they just spend it way sooner in the battle. You knew what the Slowbro was doing and you preserved it to a T, and props on you. I also have a question. Why not Shuka on the Cinderace, since you could have expected a Sceptile sweep?
I like boots. I don't like taking damage, okay?
Okay.
Because I wasn't sure I was going to be able to keep rocks off all the time, and in my head, Cinderace would be on the field more than once.
Okay.
Like pre-game. It was supposed to be one of the breakers, but I never found it. I felt like I played more defensively, and then the Slurpuff did all the breaking. And
that's true. The Slurpuff did put some overwork on this battle, so I don't fault you for not utilizing the Cinderace. No Sucker to potentially catch a low HP Sceptile?
To be honest, I don't know. I built this team in the middle of the night. All I remember was the first 2 mons I put on was Greedent, I need to use this mon, and also the Slowbro.
It's a matter of honor where you have to bring yourself to a battle at least once.
Yeah. You know, everyone was not angry at me, but they teased me that I picked so many E tiers, but I'm trying to show that the E tiers are just as good as my S plus tiers.
I press X on doubt on that one, but
Pikachu's my kill leader, what can I say?
But you are utilizing them good, so props on you. So this is the part where we're gonna basically say goodbye to you on the video, and this is basically the part where you can shamelessly plug the PAC, so please go ahead.
I'm the commissioner of the Pokemon All-Star competition, a new league, and the only 5-star rated league on the draft-league.ml, and videos are gonna start coming up now. Week 1 has been played. It's going up on my YouTube channel, My Battle, and then from that you can check out the rest of the coaches. Anyone is welcome into the PAC. We're gonna host a lot of side leagues as well, apart from the YouTube league, which are not
secondary
required.
leagues.
Yeah, applications for those will come out soon as well.
Good to know. I might applicate. I don't know.
Yeah, you're welcome to. There's a lot of different metas.
So thank you, Sven, for being here for this video, and now we're gonna go into the second part of the video, so be right back.
Thank you for having me as well.
It's a pleasure to having you, Sven. Thank you.
Bye.